Welcome to the Historical Society. Come on in. My name is Larry Rowe, and I'm president of the Oak Creek Historical Society. I've been kind of president off and on over the last, 20-some years. There was a time period in there where I had somebody else was president, but I live right across the street, and so when we moved down to the house we're in now, we knew right away this museum would be some place we'd be spending a lot of time in.
My name is Pete Schumacher. I am the Vice President of the Historical Society here in Oak Creek.
I'm Elroy Honadel, life member of the Oak Creek Historical Society. And my job is to take care of the buildings, look around and see that everything is taken care of.
And my name is Nancy Honadel. I was the assistant archivist for a number of years. We put together the research room upstairs.
Well, we've got this building here, the town hall, is probably the most historically significant. All our other buildings, we have a blacksmith shop, we have a summer kitchen, farm shed, and finally we have the used log cabin.
You also have the outhouse too, right?
Oh, we have the outhouse too, yeah. It's a good reminder for people too, so. I still think that probably the way Oak Creek became a city is probably the most interesting story. It's and some of the little side stories that went along with it. They went through a huge battle to stave off Milwaukee trying to annex Oak Creek, and the long story short was there they are holding their city charter. So these were all the local politicians. They were part-time politicians, full-time farmers mostly, and they took on Milwaukee and won the battle. This is the Edgar Wilhus blacksmith shop. It was originally located down on Nicholson and Oakwood. Of the 8 blacksmith shops that were in Oak Creek at some point in time, this is the only one that was salvaged. Just about everything in this blacksmith shop actually was used when it was an active business. We're now standing inside the Thomas and Bridget Hughes log cabin. Basically, we wound up acquiring this building. Milwaukee County decided to donate it to us. And best guess for this building, this log cabin portion, is about mid-1840s. So I've been told that this is probably one of the oldest surviving buildings in Milwaukee County. If you weren't using the summer kitchen, this is where you'd have your hot water supply, in the winter months. If you're real lucky, you would actually have a pump in your house, in your kitchen, that would provide some water for you. Again, here's another chunk of lye soap, which most of the pioneers, they would make it themselves. So that would be your soap supply there.
So Larry, I have a question.
Sure.
Would you be all right if you showed us the research room?
Sure. Yeah, I can take you up there. Now, what I think you're calling the research area is actually our archives, and it's upstairs. So,
Right.
You want to go there now?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And so this is our archives area. We've got some of the different artifacts and photographs and documents that we try and rotate in to make the place look a little different for repeat visitors. This is kind of interesting. Oak Creek used to have like a community newspaper, and we managed to, well, with the help of the city, we managed to acquire paper copies of, I think, every one of them.
Most immediate challenge is building up the membership. That seems to be a struggle, and I know a lot of organizations are having the same problem, but our historical society is running on just a nucleus of a few volunteers, and it's really getting kind of a desperate situation. We need to increase our membership and get some of the younger people involved.
Oh, I think there's always financial challenges to a degree. There's always things to be done, things to be fixed, repaired, and there's a challenge of getting the money to do that.
We do everything we can to make it as interesting as we can to the public, but we really need active members. We're fortunate in Oak Creek that the city does support us financially to some degree with a maintenance fund, but you have to have the people to do the work. Well, I think it's a good reminder that You know, not all the museums out there are like the Smithsonian. You've got these little snapshots of what life was like in America, really, not just Oak Creek. But to me, you have to remember these things, because one of my adages is you can't appreciate where you are until you've seen where you've been. Neighbors were more neighborly. I think people worked harder. I think all the parts that make a community were much more solid than maybe what we see now. We're just too detached from each other.
I think it's important to be able to connect to the history of an area and connect to the background of how we got here.
Well, I think it just kind of reminds me of years ago, because my family came over to this country in about 1840. So I was an apple grower all my life in the city of Oak Creek. My father started the orchard back in the early 20s. Just kind of interesting.
And I think this is a good way to remind people that you have to help out your fellow man here. And, these are some of the good examples of it.